Now that you've seen that you can use Visual Studio, create a web application, add an HTML page to that web application that has HTML in it, and that you can add JavaScript using the script tag, and that you want that script tag to be right before the closing body tag, let's go ahead and create another project. File, New Project. And we want the ASP.NET Web Application, .NET Framework. And let's call this one My Second Web. Click OK. And we're going to go ahead and stick with empty. Click OK again. And it makes our empty web page for us. And remember, once again, what we want to do is we want to go and right mouse click and add a new HTML page. And we'll call it index because I like to use my starting index page. And you can leave the meta if you want, not a big deal. And so here's our body, and in that body tag, let's go ahead and just put a p tag, and we'll say welcome to the Thunderdome. And then in the title you can put whatever you want, My Second Web Page. And then I want to write some JavaScript. And remember, when you write JavaScript, it has to go inside of the script tag. So let's go ahead and write a script tag. And in JavaScript, we can use what they call variables, just like we did in C#. But in C#, we had strongly typed variables. You had to say int or float or double. You had to specify that type of the data. In JavaScript, it just says I don't care. So the way it does it is you say the word var, and then you can give it a variable name. I'm gonna type a variable name, and it's going to say I loop max, and I'm going to assign it the value of 5. And notice the way I do that is I say var for variable, give it the variable name, assignment operator, a value, and then the semicolon. Every JavaScript statement ends with the semicolon. I didn't have to give it a value. I could have just said var I loop max if I wanted to, and that still declares the variable. But I wanted to go ahead and declare one there. And now what I could do is I could do a for loop, and I'll say for var I count equals 0. As long as I count is less than I loop max, we're going to stay in that loop, and we're going to increment I count. This is just like you did in C#. And then notice we also have the curly braces. JavaScript likes to keep that curly brace over here. I can try to pull it down if I want to. Doesn't matter. That's where it likes to put it. Now the syntax of the for loop is just like the C# for loop. You say for first position, the variable counter, second position, the expression that keeps you in the loop, the third position, what do you want to do with that counter? And then inside of here, I can do whatever I want with it. I could use what they call the DOM, D-O-M, which stands for a Document Object Model. And the way you do that, it's an object, so you say document dot write. And we're going to go ahead and write whatever I count is. So this says, when we execute this web page, we'll go ahead and display that p tag, and then we're going to run a loop and stay in this loop from 0 as long as it's less than 5. We'll document, write something out, and that actually says go to the web page and write, just write. And it just starts writing it on the web page wherever it left off. And it'll do it for 5 times. Let's go ahead and run that and see what happens. So we go out to our web page, and it says, let's go ahead and print off the p tag. Welcome to the Thunderdome, and then it prints 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're now showing that with JavaScript, you can make your web page do things interactively. Now take a real good look at those numbers, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. See how close they are together? And by the way, I should have said Thunderdome rather than Thunderdome. But we can go fix that by putting the word R there, the letter R. Come back to here, and instead of write, let's do what they call a write line. And let's do it again. Run it one more time. So we use the document object. We call the method write line, and then we're saying print off the variable. Notice that this time it says it prints off a space. because it's actually adding a carriage return in between each of those variables. But remember, HTML doesn't work well with carriage returns. You just don't save, go to the next line. The only way you can really make HTML go to the next line is by sending it or using a break tag. So look what I can do here. I can concatenate using the plus sign, and I can add an HTML tag BR, which stands for break. And that actually says print off the number to the document and then do a carriage return. Print the next one, carriage return. Let's run it one more time and see what we can do now. And it actually does put it on separate lines. This now implies I can use JavaScript and dynamically build HTML for this web page. And as long as I do a document.writeLine, I can write HTML whenever I want. In fact, I could say, let's go ahead and put it inside of double quotes. Let's make all of those H2 tags. We'll do a BR. Let's go ahead and close off the H2 tag. So now we're saying for each one of these items, we're going to go to the document in the browser. We're going to write an H2 HTML tag with whatever the value the variable has, with the closing H2 tag, and a break. Let's see what that does now. And now it's actually applying the HTML tag to the data. Think what you can do with this now. This means that you could dynamically build any web page you want and write that web page out using JavaScript. Other things that we can do with our JavaScript, you see that you can create a variable. I can add comments. Comments just like C#. This is a single line comment. Author, Greg Anderson. Description, doesn't do too much. But it does show you how cool JavaScript is. And that's a single line comment. Or I could have done this /*. This is a multi-line comment written by Greg Anderson. So multi-line versus single line, just like C#. If I run that one more time, we don't see the comments show up or anything, but we do see the web page work. And I could do a Control-Shift-I and go inspect the code. And there's the code that I see, the HTML. And here's the console window. I don't see any errors showing up really with the JavaScript. Don't worry about that one. That's just talking about an icon. And so that's a great way that you can dynamically build a web page. Notice that we can create variables. We can do comments. Our for loop works just like it does in C#. And our operators, they're just like they are in C# also. Plus sign, minus sign, multiplication, a slash for division, plus plus, minus minus. Plus plus is increment, minus minus decrement. All those symbols you learned in C#, they work in JavaScript also. So what else does that mean we could do? Well, let's go ahead and do the following. Let's say that we create another variable, var inum equals 2, and let's do the following. Let's say that we want to say, inside of our for loop, we want to say inum times iCount. And let's run it one more time. We can do mathematical expressions just like you could in C#. Run it one more time. And we've created variables, and now we're going to say take that variable and multiply it by 2. 0 times 2 is 0. 1 times 2 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 3, 2 times 4. And so we can do mathematical operators. Anything that you can do programmatically, we just put inside of a script statement, and it can execute. So all those things that you used to do in C#, you can now do in JavaScript.